150 years back, 127 known intelligent species existed across the galaxy. From sleek and elegant to hulking and sluggish to the crawling, terrifying types. A vibrant mix of striking and strange beings took part in galactic society, each offering their own rich cultures and perspectives to the stars. Now, only 56 remain above extinction levels. And of those 56, I wish to speak of the one that became the most feared by every living race, humans. They were the final species to enter galactic society before the calamity struck, and they concealed much about their origins and past. That wasn't rare. Many species retreated a bit when faced with the vastness of the galaxy, often overwhelmed by how truly small their kind seemed. We respected that and avoided digging too deeply into their background, though already a powerful stellar empire, on their own. Having evolved in Arether quiet, remote sector of space, their people abandoned jobs, homes, and loved ones eagerly, drawn to the distant stars of other realms. Within less than 10 years, humans had spread across countless worlds. Their remarkable adaptability let them thrive almost anywhere, and the wider galaxy soon grew fond of these odd bipeds. Whether mining on oceanless Sealess 4, running firms on Prim, or exploring the shimmering caverns of Galoria, humans swiftly became a noticeable minority in galactic space. Natural-born diplomats, merchants, and adventurers, they made friends in every region. Even the battle-hardened Drum and Liligar grew to admire the pink, soft-skinned species for their combat prowess. Their officials quickly replaced older delegates in ritual challenges. Humans were everywhere, working, winning, and weaving themselves deep into galactic life. They did everything, yet remained tight-lipped about their past. Humans eagerly studied others' histories, but seldom shared their own. And when they did, their words were always the same. Stories limited to recent centuries, focused on the rise of the present-day human federation, born from a fragmented species made up of countless smaller factions. Eventually, we stopped asking. Then, 48 years after their arrival, a danger emerged. From a region of the galaxy long considered unreachable, shrouded in thick nebulae and warped by bizarre electromagnetic disturbances, the Grox arrived. The galaxy had known peace for over 1,000 years. Even the most warlike species had mostly let their militaries decay, envisioning a galaxy free from war. Panic spread fast, but we hadn't fought in nearly 180 years, let alone full-scale war. Technology had advanced, but governments saw little value in upgrading militaries that mostly chased off the occasional pirate crew. We weren't prepared. By the time a real blockade was in place, nearly 2 years had passed since the invasion began, and the expanding GRS empire already controlled 30% of the galactic spiral. Humans were present in every role. Combat troops, medics, admirals, engineers, everywhere you looked, they stood ready. But as the decades wore on, the war worsened, and even the tourist economies began to falter. Empires struggled just to hold a defensive line. After nearly 50 years of brutal war, a human diplomat, Charles Mataran, stood before the Galactic Council. He asked that humanity take charge of the war fort. Nearly half the galaxy was lost, and ancient empires had crumbled, either consumed or fractured, desperate to stop rogue factions from escalating the collapse. It was true. Humans held key leadership roles in the war, even within non-human fleets. But still, we objected. Humans had lost nearly as many lives as all other combatants combined. We couldn't believe they could pull together a proper force. Sure, they were good fighters, still are, and they had their economy still functioned, helped by their distance from the front lines. Still, they'd never fought a war on a galactic scale. We debated for weeks, yet Chairs remained steadfast, claiming her stance was supported by the highest authorities. Council opinion was split. Some saw only bold rookies using the crisis to grab power. Others saw a peaceful, trade-driven people seeking to help. Then, in frustration, she stopped requesting and started demanding. She insisted the Council hand full control of the war effort to humanity. The humans in command backed her without hesitation. They claimed their species understood war better than anyone and would follow orders to the end. To use one of their own phrases, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Other leaders and admirals aligned themselves with their human allies, and the Council could no longer resist. Within a week, a human fleet reclaimed a sector we'd been trying to liberate for months. They dropped out of FTL and unleashed hell, flinging nuclear weapons and near-light-speed missiles with a ferocity that bordered on madness. The Groks were obliterated, their ships ripped apart in storms of flame and shattered steel. In 7 days, the humans used more firepower than we'd spent in a month, and delivered what we hadn't seen in years: victory. But they didn't stop. They surged ahead, deeper into Grok territory. They paid dearly for every world, but the Groks paid more. 3 months later, we officially handed them command of the Unified Galactic Forces. Fleets a human admiral marched into the military headquarters of a galactic armada and proclaimed the galaxy would be theirs within a decade. We laughed, but they kept their word. Human leadership caused more and more humans to join the fight, confident that with their own people in charge, victory was just a matter of time. By this point, the Groks had slaughtered trillions, and each human that signed up for the fight had lost co-workers, friends, family. Even those few who had lost, no one simply wanted to help those who had given them so much or just burned the Groks on a pie of nuclear fishing through the whole of the fighting. Humans had been everywhere. Huge medical fleets serviced soldiers wounded in ground-fighting armadas of human ships tore through space after the enemy with impunity. We had seen every facet and praiseworthy deed the humans had ever done. But while all this was going on, the greatest minds of humanity were debating among themselves, and they had finally reached a decision after a half-century of war. It took them a month to retake sectors long held by the Gro, a year to turn the tide, and by 4 we had the Groks fleeing. But how they did it turned our blood to ice. Biological horrors, the result of twisted experiments by insane scientists, drop it onto worlds to ravage military bases, where horrors failed. Entire colonies were empties of violent prisoners. Toe drop. Instead, utilizing the chaos they created to tear the Gro forces apart, viral bombardment of horrific plagues left entire worlds screaming in agony as their bodies were torn apart from the inside, turning them into sludgy piles of undulating flesh, or just ripping their organs apart one by one. Nanite swarms stripped enemy fleets of their hulls, these swarms purposefully spacing the occupants, as they repurposed all that delicious metal into more of themselves, eventually growing into planet-sized monstrosities that could consume entire systems in a matter of weeks. And when a night's viral seabard or mutated horrors wouldn't work, the humans simply burned whole worlds in nuclear fire, glassing manufactories and economic centers. They turned the shimmering jewels of Theatini and Boma empires into eternally burning monuments of fire to ensure the Groks no longer had a hold on those regions. When the inevitable outcry reared its head, the Admiral Jonas SM went on Galactic News and simply said, "Do you want the GRS defeated, or do you want to die to their guns by the 6th year? The galaxy had seen our fill of atrocities and turned back, trying to repair. Our broken and fractured nations would take centuries, and our economies had been stretched to breaking point. With the Groks' defeat assured, we beat our own swords to plowshares and offered up prayers to our human saviors. But every day that went past, the humans found new and inventive ways of horrifying the universe with their monstrous ideas, accelerating particles to light speed and slamming them into planets to break them in seconds became a common tactic. Fleets of drone swarms, acting like locusts, tore apart ships, attempting to flee the atmospheres of broken worlds. Worlds that relied on regular food shipments were simply encased in a shield and left alone. As the war fleets moved ever onwards, their inhabitants were left to starve, devolve, or simply tear each other apart. A cannibalism became the new norm. But the worst was in the 7th year, nanite swarms had grown to encompass stars. All the various viruses the humans had were long since retooled for maximum efficiency aside. Humans had absorbed new warfare tactics, drawn from both other empires and even the Groks, and put them to use with startling enthusiasm. Real Fox was the radiant heart of the Linan Church. Captured early in the war, it marked a massive Groks triumph, a system of 20 planets, each flawlessly terraformed into stunning garden worlds, a marvel of ecological craft and beauty. Its fall devastated the faith of the Church's followers. The humans launched a payload straight into Real Fox's sun. Within hours, it went supernova, wiping the entire system from existence before it collapsed inward, birthing a ravenous black hole that devoured the entire system by week's end. This act led to widespread condemnation of the humans by the Galactic Council. Until now, their brutal tactics had been excused, but the power to destroy stars crossed a line. Outrage rippled across civilizations. Calls echoed for their removal from the War Council. The human leadership replied with a single message: "This is war. In war, there is only victory or death. We choose victory." Attached was the full history of humanity, and only then did we begin to understand. Millennia upon millennia of endless warfare was their legacy, again and again. Nations against nations. Uprisings against rulers, rebels against ideals. There was always war. It never ended. Even before they left that gleaming blue planet of theirs, they nearly destroyed it 5 times in pursuit of conflict. By the goddess, even after leaving it, war followed. Earth versus Mars. Inner systems versus frontier colonies, Sol against Alpha. Centauri, it never ceased. In the 800 years between their first interstellar colony and discovering the galactic community, humanity waged no fewer than 963 wars. Some overlapped. Civil wars erupted while leaders fought off external invasions. It was part of them, inescapable, and we unleashed that upon the stars. We let loose a genocidal species to fight another genocidal species. But the humans kept their word. The GRS were driven back to their last star cluster, and then, one by one, their systems were obliterated in a campaign that became one of the galaxy's darkest and most complete genocides ever witnessed again. And we said nothing. What could we say? When humans wage war, it's total. They Roseto defend their newfound allies, top reserve the galaxy they now called home, and in doing so, they shatter it. Then, they simply return to their ways. The nightmares they'd created were locked away, dismantled, or hurled into stars and black holes. Their armies were disbanded, war regiments dissolved. Those who served were granted pensions and either retired or resumed normal lives. But the galaxy would never forget. Never forget what humanity was capable of when pushed. They never issued threats. They never needed to. Of all the terrors we had seen, one remained burned into memory above all others. Humanity's unparalleled capacity for war, and the quiet, unnerving question of what would happen should we ever choose to aim our weapons at them.